They say it takes a village to raise a child, because children need a lot of different people to look out for them. Families can use all the help they can get. After all, no parent is perfect. That's why McCoy leads the Early Intervention and Prevention Initiative. We want to showcase all of the excellent programs in our city that help families learn and grow together. Because when we learn and grow together, we make our village a better place to live. Thank you for tuning in. We hope you enjoy this episode of Our Kids, Our Families, Our Communities.
Hello, you're watching Our Kids, Our Families, Our Communities, a show focused on providing information and resources for youth and families in our community. My name is Mitzi Wilson. I'm the Early Intervention and Prevention Initiatives Director at McCoy, and I would like to introduce you to our guest for today's show, which will be on early childhood education. So to begin, we have Crystal Givens with Child Care Answers, Lenore Friedley with Partnerships for Early Learners, as well as Cheryl Tyler with Child Care Answers as well. So just to kind of begin with introductions, I'll start with you. Crystal, if you can tell us a little bit about your work and your role with Child Care Answers.
Our work with Child Care Answers is designed to help the community, the child care providers, as well as families to learn more about early childhood education. Child Care Answers has been around for a little over 30 years in order to help families with their child care needs and the providers to understand how quality and their increase in quality will help children to succeed in life, and also helping the community understand the importance of early childhood education. So my role is to oversee programs and projects that make sure those things happen. And Child Care Answers is a part of Early Learning Indiana, which is our parent company. Early Learning Indiana is a direct service provider of child care programs. So in addition to offering those child care services to families, Early Learning Indiana wanted to extend their reach and also care for or provide services for families and children outside of the direct services. So they developed Child Care Answers, and then also recently Partnerships for Early Learners was developed as well.
Thank you. Mm-hmm. And I guess we'll move on to you, Lenore, to kind of share a little bit more about Partnerships for Early Learners and your work.
All right, thank you. My role is Manager of Family Support and Engagement Initiatives, and I work with the project around family engagement with CCR&Rs around the state, Child Care Answers, as well as all of the others that we have in different areas in the state. We work to ensure that the word about family engagement is getting out there. We have several initiatives going, and I'm sure we'll talk about those later on, but we're trying to work more closely with families and the importance of their role as parents and as teachers, and just ensuring that everyone understands that importance of the young child. Education starts at birth.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And Cheryl, I understand that your role is a little bit more around outreach.
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about that?
I am the outreach coordinator with Child Care Answers, and what that means is I work with all aspects of Child Care Answers reach, whether that's families, parents and providers, or the community. For parents, we educate them on what early childhood should be and what quality care should look like, as well as helping them to find a provider who meets their needs. With the providers, we keep a statewide database, so we keep that updated every 6 months in order to give out current information. And then we also do the provider classes to help them on the licensing process. And with communities, we sit on several early childhood coalitions. We talk to a lot of human resource departments. We speak to business leaders, community leaders about the importance of quality care. So pretty much anything to do with getting the word out about early childhood education is part of my job.
Thank you. And Crystal, to go back to you, can you share a little bit more just about the umbrella of Early Learning Indiana and kind of what Early Learning Indiana does?
Mm-hmm. Early Learning Indiana is the actual parent company of the Day Early Learning Child Care Centers. So there are quite a few child care centers around the city, and also one in Hendricks County. And then there's also the program aspect, which is outreach, which consists of Child Care Answers, and then Partnerships for Early Learners. Child Care Answers is the agency that works locally
Okay.
with parents, providers, and families. And Partnerships for Early Learners works on a statewide level to provide support to the local child care resource and referral, which is Child Care Answers, as well as 8 other agencies around the state to provide the services to families, child care providers, as well as the community, just to ensure that the services that we're offering and the supports that we're offering to our customers are at a quality level, and that we're also making sure that we're pushing the initiative and advancing the early childhood education agenda, and making sure that everyone in our community is aware of the importance of early childhood education.
And so how does that connect with the Partnerships for Early Learners?
Absolutely. There are lots of programs going on with Partnerships for Early Learners. We've been funded by FSSA and the Early Learning and Out of School office with the state, and a Lilly Foundation grant that has allowed us to focus on family engagement, but also help me out here, girls. I'm forgetting all of the initiatives, but there's
Capacity building,
Thank you.
making sure that there are enough quality seats for the need for early childhood education.
right. And so my focus, of course, is around family engagement, and we work, as Crystal said, with each of the area providers in the state, and then they work directly with those providers who then touch the families. And we're also working on several projects that are going to directly touch families
Okay.
from our perspective.
And so you're all kind of operating under that umbrella of Early Learning Indiana.
Yes.
Yes.
And so, really kind of during this month of January with the start of the legislative session, there really is a focus around early childhood education.
Absolutely.
Can you speak to kind of why early childhood education is important and why families should know about it and engage?
Early childhood education is really important because it determines where our children are going to be in the future, and it sets the stage for their performance later on in life. It sets the stage for their performance as they enter school. And of course, everyone wants their child to be successful, and having a successful start early in life will really help prepare them for school and also help prepare them for life in general. And it also increases their rate of going on to college. It decreases their rate of being incarcerated or falling on getting into trouble with the law. So it's really important, and it's an issue that everyone should get behind, because the investment in early childhood education means that we're investing back in our communities, we're investing in jobs, we're investing in individuals that want to move forward in life and be educated and not uneducated. So it's a huge investment that it pays off for us, for all of us, and not just that family and that child.
Thank you.
Another thing that I wanted to be sure we spoke about was the research around brain development, and when that is happening is from 0 to 5, and in particularly from 0 to 3, and how critical it is that children have good experiences with their caregivers and with their families, and that those experiences and those relationships are built strongly, and in a very positive way, can benefit children in the long run.
Thank you.
And part of the reason for my position is to educate parents on what that quality care should look like, the purpose of early childhood education, building a relationship with that child care provider so that that child can be successful. So by educating the parents to make informed decisions helps with that continuity of care, and it helps to ensure the success of the child.
And so we've kind of, used the term a little bit loosely, but really what is early childhood education for a parent that's trying to understand the difference between maybe an early childhood provider and a daycare center, or some of the options they're considering?
When a parent calls, or we do an on-site referral or anything of that nature, we give them the definitions of what the different types of care are. As you mentioned, there are child care centers, and they're the most regulated in the state, but there are licensed home providers who also have to go through regulations. There are registered ministries, there are preschool programs, school-age programs, Head Start, before and after care. So there are a variety of options for families, and it really is up to the family to decide what works best and what's the best fit for their family.
And so can you share a little bit more just about that process of kind of finding the fit?
Well, as I said, we do the education piece with the families, and then we encourage them to go speak to the providers. We encourage them to take the checklist that we have available to them, ask the important questions, some questions that you may not think of, such as, what is their sick policy? You need to know that if your child wakes up with a fever, can or can they not go to school that day? Are you going to have to miss work? All those important things. But also, they need to find out about curriculum. They need to find out about that daily schedule. And, once they are able to speak with that provider, form a little bit of a relationship at the beginning, then they can decide, do I want to send my child to a center? Do I want to use a home provider? It's really, it's more about the family dynamic and the relationship they build with that provider and what they feel is going to be best for their children.
Thank you.
And more than that, if in addition to that, not more than that, in addition to that, a family should also just use their common sense. If it doesn't look right, if it doesn't smell right, if it just doesn't feel right, don't leave your children there. So that's another key takeaway. Also do your education, as Cheryl said. There's a lot to go into looking for childcare. A parent does have to do their research and to figure out what type of childcare best fits their needs, but also what the curriculum says, and also if the food that the providers are serving, does that meet the child's needs? Does your child have allergies? What other things does your child need, and making sure that that provider can meet those needs, but also making sure that the parent and the family uses their common sense on selecting childcare.
Right, and we really do promote play-based curriculum, as Cheryl said, and so if we go in and there's children are sitting a lot at this age, that is not age appropriate, and we talk a lot about that with families when we're trying to educate, is that age appropriateness. If it doesn't feel like, say, 2-year-olds, we all know 2-year-olds have attention span, a very short attention span, and they don't sit well. And so looking for those types of cues, it's not about necessarily at this point learning the ABCs and doing that by rote. It's about doing things that are age appropriate, running, playing, jumping, playing with Play-Doh to get ready to write, to get ready to learn the alphabet, those types of things. So we really want to be careful about what it is you're looking at. It's not just the pretty toys, it's also about what is actually happening.
And the other tool that we use is the voluntary quality rating system that we have in the state of Indiana called Paths to Quality. We talk a lot to the parents about what Paths to Quality is, about the 4 levels that there are with the Paths to Quality program, and then we let them know whether or not a provider is on that program and what their level is. I also encourage them, if a provider is, say, a level 2, to talk to the provider about what their advancement looks like. When will they be moving to a level 3? What's their timeline look like, different things like that. And one of the great things about that program is the levels build upon each other. So a level 1 provider has to still meet all the standards of level 1 to move on to level 2. Same for level 3 and level 4. Level 4 providers are nationally accredited. So how I usually explain that to a parent is that they've gone above and beyond state standards and are part of a national accreditation body.
And you've provided a lot of a lot of information and detail with regards to the options and the process. So is there some place online where a parent or caregiver that's watching can go to kind of pull up some of this information or get additional support?
Oh, absolutely. Our website, childcareanswers.com, earlylearningindiana.org is our early learning website. Also, the state website, the in.gov website, under, I think it's Family and Health,
Okay.
That they go under that tab, and there's information about licensed providers and Paths to Quality and all those things. So they definitely, and on any website, if they look for, there's a blue button that says free childcare search. And what that means is if they click on that and create a profile, we can run a childcare search for them at no cost.
Okay.
And I try to explain to parents, it doesn't mean we're going to find you free childcare. The search itself is free.
Okay. And so that is childcareanswers.com,
Yes.
as well as earlylearningindiana.org.
Earlylearningindiana.org.
.org.
Yes.
Okay.
Right. And then, of course, Partnerships for
always
Early
forget
Learners
that one.
also has, and it's partnershipsforearlylearners.com. And that is more geared towards providers currently, but it will we will be having a website that will be geared directly to parents. And of course, the button will be there to find that search also, but it will also have additional information about families and parenting.
Thank you.
We're also available on social media as well. Child Care Answers, we post daily on our Facebook page, as well as Twitter and Instagram.
Okay. Thank you.
And they can also call our office anytime. We're office hours are 8 to 5, but they can reach us at 317-636-5727. They can speak directly with me or one of my outreach specialists, Michelle Terry, and we can run a search for them over the phone.
Okay. Thank you. And we've, talked about, how a parent kind of, looks into or gets to a child care option. But once they've found that fit, kind of what next? I know that we want to talk about family engagement. So what is that all about?
Yeah, family engagement it's a broad topic, but most people think of what you do at school, going to meetings or possibly, which of course is definitely engagement, getting to know the staff on a day-to-day basis is a piece of what we consider family engagement, because the families can share what is important for the child, either personality-wise or did I sleep well, those types of things. The other piece of family engagement that not everyone thinks of right off the top of their head is that engagement between the family and the child, the parent and the child, or the grandmother and the child, and those relationships are critical and important too. And that is something that we're trying to broaden that perspective, and really, and when we say engage, we really mean engage in the whole meaning of the word.
And why is that dynamic important? Kind of what benefit comes from having parents engaged or caregivers engaged?
Right. The outcomes for children improve. That is the main reason that we want to have that happen. Children feel more comfortable in settings when their families are comfortable and engaged with their provider. When children are kind of what I call feeling magnets, and they can tell whether or not I like Crystal, or if I like their mom when they're dropping off. And so if I'm uncomfortable with my provider or my caregiver, I might not be learning on the level that I should be learning on. And so for me, that's the critical piece, is that the child feels comfortable and able to learn in those settings. Of course, there are other benefits of we know that when families are engaged, that when I say outcomes, their literacy outcomes improve, their social emotional outcomes improve, because then they learn to express themselves and be able to sit in the classroom when they get to kindergarten. Of course, our goal is not at 2 be able to sit and be ready for kindergarten, but by the time I reach 5 and I'm going into the kindergarten classroom, kindergarten teachers always tell us that what they really need from children is that they can sit and listen. And so that piece of that social emotional outcome is improved when parents are involved.
Thank you. And I can tell that, that you three have a lot of passion around early childhood education. So for our viewers that are watching, do you have any, success stories or, examples of ways that, families and youth or children that have engaged in early child education, how they have benefited?
Actually, I have my own success story. I have a 2-year-old, so we're transitioning right now into the 2-year-old room from the 1-year-old classroom. And I can tell how he's grown, because initially when we would go into the 2-year-old for transition, it would be tears. And now he blossomed like overnight, it seems like, because of that relationship that he's built with the teachers in that classroom, and because of the consistency in the routine. He's not afraid to be left in that 2-year-old classroom anymore. So it's been a huge shift, and actually night and day, from tears to bye, mommy. So it's really encouraging to know that I have the support of early childhood educators who have my child's best interest at heart, and that they'll support me, and also I can get some tips from them on how best that we could stay on track and work together to make sure that he's successful.
I like to think about the early childhood and children having other adults in their life and the expectations that we have and that we can share among each other as adults, but that children become and feel as though they're capable. And I think that, just that whole learning to put your coat on, I know I can do that, then that leads to, oh, well, then maybe I can even put my shoes on. And then that kind of snowballs down the road into that, how I feel good about myself and I'm competent. So as a worker, and as Crystal mentioned earlier, that children in quality child care tend to do better in the workforce, and that whole economic piece of that, I think, is huge when it comes to children and having those experiences.
Thank you.
And also the child care providers themselves, when they grow in the profession and learn more about how to provide quality child care, you see them light up and you see them excited to work more with children on a daily basis. So it's also important for us in the child care resource and referral world to help support those providers so they continue to grow and continue to find out what's best for children as things change. We want them to continue to grow as well and be more educated on how best to provide the services in their program. So that's always a huge benefit for us as well, to see those providers light up as they learn something new.
Thank you. That's a good point.
Well, I was thinking, I have some personal, but I was actually thinking about, we have a partnership with the Marion County Public Library, and we do a literacy conference every year, usually in August, and it's for providers. And when I speak to providers after that, they are, months later, they're still so appreciative for the training that they received, because it's such hands-on training that they can take back and immediately use in their classroom, in their licensed home, wherever they're providing care. And for them to come back and say, you guys were the ones who opened my eyes to a new approach, or you gave me an idea and I went back and implemented it, that has a direct correlation on how the child is going to be successful, depending on the professional development, and how that provider is staying engaged with the child and the family.
Thank you. And those are kind of, great stories and personal experiences just to kind of wrap up the conversation. So I want to thank you, Crystal, Lenore, and Cheryl, for being on the show today to talk about early childhood education. I did want to make sure that we did repeat the website for Child Care Answers, as well as the telephone number for families that want to begin that search for options. So.
The website is childcareanswers.com, and we can be reached at 317-636-5727. And you can also check us out at earlylearningindiana.org and partnershipsforearlylearners.org as well.
And as Crystal mentioned, on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
Yes.
Yes.
And thank you so much for watching our show today, as well as if you would like to, view this show again, we'll have a copy of it on our Facebook page once that's up. You can also find it through the McCoy website, which is mccouth.org, and follow as well our social our social media as well. You can find this show as well as past shows with regards to topics and issues concerning youth. So thank you very much for watching Our Kids, Our Families, Our Communities. Thank you.